You're back on the Skeptical Economist, right here on Fox News Talk 1430 WXNT. Of course, I am Pete the Planner. And we are studying the United States Postal Service today, its efficiency, its ability to bring us our mail, and its effectiveness of delivering a cost-effective solution to communication. That was verbose, wasn't it? Sorry. So I bring on the line now the president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Fredric Rolando, who is responsible for the members of the Letter Carriers Union and providing and making sure they have good wages and make sure that their interests are represented. Mr. Rolando, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Now, this morning, we talked about, so far, prior to having you on here, we talked a little bit about the efficiency of the Postal Service. And, since the 1980s, it's completely independent from taxpayer funds, and that's good news. And certainly people still enjoy receiving mail. It's honestly one of the great thrills of my day, as sad as it is to go to my mailbox and see what's in there. How has the Postal Service changed and people's perception of it changed, especially with all this news of cutting Saturday delivery and Tuesday delivery and things? Because when you hear that, you think, oh, man, those guys are in trouble.
Right. Well, there is a misperception of the Postal Service as far as the finances go. Obviously, the Postal Service has been affected by the Internet and more so by the recession, which, of course, is the worst recession in the last 80 years, has affected the mail, obviously, and the revenue and so forth. But the biggest effect on the Postal Service has nothing to do with either one of those. The biggest effect has to do with a mandate by Congress in 2006 for the Postal Service to pre-fund their future retiree health benefits for the next 75 years and do it over the next 10-year period.
And this is something that, honestly, prior to me heavily researching this topic, I had absolutely no clue, and I think the general public has no clue. Why don't people know this? Because I think it would give them a better feeling about the Postal Service.
Yeah, it probably would, because if you look at the Postal Service, it's a large company that goes to every business and every home in America, 150 million addresses, 6 days a week. It has fully funded pensions, 2 fully funded pensions. Their future retiree health benefits have got $40 billion in the bank. They're in pretty good financial shape, but I guess it's really not a news bite to try to explain the pre-funding, because it's something that no other federal agency has to do. It's something that no other company is required to do. And the Postal Service is glad to do it and continues to do it. Like I said, there's $40 billion in that fund. The biggest problem is that the Postal Service has the money to do this pre-funding in one of its pension funds. The Civil Service Fund has a surplus of somewhere between $50 and $75 billion in it. That's been determined by 2 independent agencies. And what the Postal Service is asking Congress to do is allow it to just transfer its own money from that fund to this future retiree health benefit fund, because if not for making the payments into that fund, despite the worst recession in 80 years, despite the use of the Internet, the Postal Service would have still turned a profit in the last 4 years.
And I think as we examine the efficiency of the Postal Service and the perception of the Postal Service, and certainly one of those things we hear is constantly the media slapping away at how the Postal Service is cutting services. But a lot of it's based on this federal mandate. Who pushed for this mandate? Because clearly, as you think of two sides of an issue, clearly you represent the union. You want the interests of the union, and you also represent the American people who want good services. Who's on the other side? Who pushed for this mandate to fully fund future retirees by $75 billion? Because of the 975 other federal agencies out there, no one else is doing it. So why you guys?
It appeared to have been purely a congressional scoring issue to return some of the surplus money that we had in that fund prior in 2006. In order for that to score properly in Congress, they required that surplus money be used to establish this fund. And again, nobody in the Postal Service, the company, the unions, anybody else, has any objection to being the only federal agency that has to do that. We would just like to use our own funds transferred from our surpluses to make that payment. And again, look at what a successful company the Postal Service is, to be totally pre-funded for future retiree health benefits, pension plans, and so forth.
When you hear Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma say things such as, quote, the biggest problem with the Postal Service is their labor costs as a component of their total revenues, how does that strike you?
Well, I think that the term he used was 80% of labor costs or something like that. And number one, that's a figure that's come down quite a bit in the last few years. But number two, you've got to understand what the Postal Service is. It's a very labor-intensive company. We go to every address, 150 million addresses, 6 days a week. Of course, you're going to have high labor costs. But the other side of that is you've got to look at what the workforce is. You've got, decent middle-class jobs and very low turnover, and that's something you want in the Postal Service because for the sixth year in a row, Americans have selected the postal employees as the most trusted federal employees. These are employees that go to every neighborhood every day. They're out there watching the children grow. They're out there saving lives, stopping crime, all the things that happen with being in the right place at the right time as being part of every community. So, you don't want a high turnover when you have a company like that.
When I hear you say that, there here in Indianapolis, Indiana, there was a story a couple years ago where a postman stepped in on a bank robbery on the south side of Indianapolis and got shot in the process. So when you talk about trustworthy, upstanding people, I'm right there with you, and I think the people of Central Indiana know that.
Yeah, you have to look at what the job of a letter carrier has evolved into besides delivering mail. Letter carriers have the largest food drive in America every year. They're one of the original national supporters of MDA. They have a carrier alert program where they look on the elderly who live alone to make sure that they're doing okay. They're part of the City Readiness Initiative where in a national emergency, carriers would deliver emergency medicines to the communities because there's no other universal network like the Postal Service. There's so many things that letter carriers do in the Postal Service. You want a stable workforce.
If you're just joining us here on the program, I'm talking to Fredric Rolando, president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, as we take the time today to examine the efficiency of the Postal Service, the perception, the public perception. It is what it is. The perception is not the greatest at times, but the more I've studied this week, the more I've talked to Mr. Rolando, the more I realize they've got a little bit of an uphill battle with this $6 billion a year obligation that they have to pre-fund their future retirees, an obligation that none of the other 975 federal agencies have, and it's an obligation that no one knows about. Mr. Rolando, here's something that's really been sticking in my head all week, and I can't rectify this situation in my head, and I'm hoping you can give me an answer to it. This program, my life is about efficiency. I count the number of left turns I take to work because I don't want to take that many. I really tend to be an efficient person. How efficient is it for us to get our general correspondence from our banks and utility companies and all those sorts of things through the U.S. Postal Service versus electronic means? Because I know the efficient thing to me seems to do it through electronic means, but that would simply blow you guys up if everyone chose that method.
Well, I think the Postal Service is changing somewhat. Obviously there's privacy issues with electronic messaging like that people have to be concerned with. You don't want to go overboard. But the Internet certainly is changing the way we do business. We're looking at different business models for the future. It's changed the way we do things. For example, people do a lot of shopping online, so obviously parcel post is going to become a bigger part of our business, going door to door. There's other companies that do parcel post. There's UPS, there's FedEx. The fastest growing divisions of UPS and FedEx are giving the parcel post for residential delivery to the Postal Service. So in partnership with these other companies, that part of our business is growing.
And you've got a lot of mandates and a lot of rules you've got to follow in terms of keeping it's even in the Constitution is where it mentions that a postal service must be provided and at a reasonable cost, at a fair cost, equal cost to everyone no matter where they live, right?
Sure, because the idea is, like I said before, you don't have any other kind of universal network like you have for the Postal Service for all kinds of functions that you can imagine that need to be done for the American people. The purpose is not to suck profits out of this company like it is with other corporations. The idea is to provide universal service at a reasonable cost, which the Postal Service has done very well. and continues to improve every year.
Do you think it's possible that the USPS discourages technological advancement in terms of communications delivery in order simply to save jobs?
No, I don't know what you mean by that.
I'm saying that, a lot of times our choices of communicating with people are the traditional ways: physical correspondence, letters,
sure.
That we all really do enjoy getting in the mail, or corresponding via email. So what I'm asking is, do you think that the U.S. Postal Service and its unions discourage the more efficient types of correspondence simply to make sure that unemployment isn't rampant within the Postal Service?
Well, I would guess that probably postal employees might be the last group of people to go to electronic alternatives just because it is what they do for a living. But again, that's something that's going to come, and it's something that everybody accepts, and it's just part of what has to change in the Postal Service about how we have to do our business. We just got to look to the future as we come out of this recession and see how much of the mail comes back from the recession and how much is gone due to the Internet. And we've got to adjust our business model. And the employees of the Postal Service, the unions, are more than willing to take the lead and figure out what needs to be done to make the Postal Service successful because, like I said, we've got a pretty good company here.
You've got some really unique challenges in the Postal Service, one being the fact that, and I read a statistic that for every penny that the national fuel average increases, it costs the USPS $8 million in fuel for their fleet. So you've got that challenge. And then you've also got the fact that it's not like you can change the price of mailing a letter every single day or that regularly, even if these fuel costs and costs of doing business increase, such as the recession. A lot of companies stopped marketing and sending maybe higher profit margin mail pieces, and that really hurt you guys.
Well, it's all part of adjusting to the change. I picture the Postal Service in the future with a fleet of green vehicles and being the only delivery vehicle on the road in partnership with these other companies, because it makes more sense for the Postal Service to deliver for every other company, because we go to every house where some of these other companies may be going to every 50th house, every 100th house. It's all part of adapting to the change.
Is it possible that there'll be a change to that strange component of mail delivery, whereas the cost to get the mail to someone in nowhere, Idaho, where you had to deliver it by plane to a small town and drop it off, versus someone in New York City, you just drop it in their box, because the cost of delivering it to those two entities are quite different, but it costs the same. Will there ever be a pricing structure that accounts for that, do you think?
Well, I hope not. I really hope not. I hope that we maintain the universal network that we have, that for 44 cents you can send something anywhere in the country. I think it's something that Americans want and Americans deserve and should continue to have through the Postal Service.
Where does
6 days a week.
Where does the NALC stand right now in terms of a contract? I mean, is that something that is going to be an issue going forward, or are they locked up for a while, or how's that stand?
Oh, collective bargaining? Sure,
yes.
It's an issue every time it expires. Ours expires November of 2011, and we look forward to negotiating with the Postal Service. We think that both sides will be successful in negotiating a contract.
Will that federal mandate for the obligation to pay for pre-fund future retirees, will that have a major effect on collective bargaining going forward? Because it seems like the USPS is required to do that for the union members, so that seems like that'd be a pretty good thing, right?
Well, it's a factor, but the Postal Service and the unions are both working together in the halls of Congress right now we have no objection to do this pre-funding. We just want to take our surplus money from the civil service retirement system and transfer it over to make these payments, and that's what we're working together on in Congress. We're on the same page there. Excellent.
Well, your perspective on this was very enlightening, and the people I was able to work with behind the scenes at your organization were great, too, and able to shed some light on the fact that it's not as cut and dry as you get your mail every day, stamp prices go up, and they may cut Saturday delivery. There's a lot of things to consider, such as this federal mandate, fuel prices, universal costs, and Fredric Rolando, president of the National Association of Letter carriers. I really appreciate you spending this Sunday with us here on the program.
We appreciate you getting the message out, and we would just tell the American people, don't give up on the Postal Service. We have a lot of change to adapt to. We don't want to dismantle this company. We want to find ways to have the company grow. We hope to be out there 7 days a week.
Excellent. Thanks again, and have a Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you.
You know, this is great. I hope this interests you as much as it interests me. I mean, yeah, mail. It's not that exciting to talk about. But the concepts of efficiency are. Why did Blockbuster fail so bad? Because of Netflix, because of Redbox, because other companies are doing a similar job much better. Why were FedEx and UPS thriving? Because they were doing a better job at certain things, slightly different, but certain things better than the USPS. But the USPS has got a lot more challenges.